Welcome to America's Talking, powered by the Center Square. I'm Morgan Sweeney, White House reporter for the Center Square. We are now well into the second week of President Donald Trump's Liberation Day operation in Washington, D.C., where he deployed National Guard troops to combat crime in the city. The White House this week touted police union statistics showing crime significantly down since the operation began. Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser and other Democrats have been highly critical of the deployment. Joining me to discuss this is the Center Square's Washington, D.C. Bureau Chief, Sarah Roderick Fitch. Sarah, tell us more about what the White House is saying about the crime data.
Well, they continue to show that the data is showing that crime is significantly down. And these past now almost 2 weeks that since, quote, Liberation Day, as President Trump calls it, showing that I think there were some new figures just released, but it's showing that like carjackings, for instance, are down by 83%. A lot of significant drops in all crime areas, including property theft and I guess assaults and everything. So it is showing that it is having having a significant impact. Not exactly sure if it's just based on arrests of getting people off the streets, or if it's just sort of a deterrent to crimes ongoing, potentially people committing future crimes. We don't really know at this point.
So Trump joined military and law enforcement on Thursday with a large group of them gathered, just thanking them for the job that they're doing, affirming that he believes it's necessary, having them there. What did he have to say to them then?
He thanked them for what they were doing. He talked about the importance of what they have been doing, and the impact that they are making, showing that, hey, this is working, appears to be working. Other cities are sort of looking at this going, okay, obviously this is working. Even some Democrats are, it's kind of undeniable. Hey, this is going on. This seems to be working. But yeah, he went to, I believe it was the Park Police headquarters, and because Park Police is a major part of this. Park Police oversees the mall, and a lot of different areas, Rock Creek Park, a lot of areas within the district they have a lot of jurisdiction over. So they are sort of a very important component to this patrolling. So it's really interesting. He went there, but he was also Vice President Vance did something similar. He went with Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, to Union Station. They met with National Guard members, they shared a meal with them. They did all that. They had some good words. But as that was happening, now Trump did not see this, but obviously it was a little bit more apparent when Vance was there. There's a lot of pushback. There were a lot of protests. There were people inside Union Station shouting, calling him a Nazi and so forth, and shouting some profanities at the vice president and Secretary Hegseth as they were going through. So there is quite a bit of pushback and protests that are ongoing. But interestingly, people on the ground there it's Union Station was sort of a hotbed. There was a lot of homelessness around there, and there was a lot of sometimes violence could break out there. And that's been pushed out. People have noted, hey, they don't smell weed, when they're coming out of Union Station. They're not approached. So it's interesting to kind of see how this has sort of transpired. But I do think it's going to continue on. But the DC Police Union, they have been sort of at the forefront of this whole thing. They've been putting out some of these stats and whatnot, and they're just sort of saying, "Hey, this is just sort of the first. This is just the first sort of step in this." And they want real reforms, and starting with the DC Council. So I think it'll be really interesting. I think right now this is sort of the first step in what's ongoing, but the fight is going to continue, and I think when Congress comes back into session, that's when things are going to maybe get a little bit more tense, and there's going to be a little bit more, we'll see a little bit more debate going on between the Democrats and Republicans, because I think this is going to be an opportunity for the Trump administration and Senator Mike Lee, who has been really the big one behind this whole rescinding the Home Rule Act for DC. I think that there's going to be a major push to sort of get that through in order to get reforms as far as the justice system within DC, because that's right there, kind of a barrier. And U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro has mentioned that, especially with the youth crime, is sort of, it's kind of a revolving door, because they can't really prosecute. They can just sort of slap the wrist of some of these teens that were behind a lot of these carjackings, a lot of this crime spree. And so I think that it'll be interesting to see what's coming from it. But I think that there is going to be a major fight, and that's going to come down to rescinding this. And it'll be interesting. There's going to be all eyes on it as, hey, there's going to be a fight over DC statehood. Then there's going to be, the fight over giving DC its autonomy and continuing to give it its autonomy. And so we'll see kind of what happens. But I think the next few weeks, there's going to be a real push to rescind that DC Home Rule Act on Republican side. And then on the Democratic side, it's going to be a push to implement, or to make DC a 51st state. I think there's going to be a huge fight ongoing. So we'll see what kind of happens from here. But I think, just this right now, it's sort of the calm before the storm, I think, in DC.
Has the administration given a clear timeline for when the federalization of DC is going to end, or what have they said there?
No, they have not given a timeline as far as when, how long the National Guard will be there. I mean, based on what it was in 2021, there were National Guard members there from January until about May. There were thousands of National Guard members. There is no absolute timeline, especially with the DC National Guard. And there is, and interestingly, there's no price tag either. Reached out to the DoD, and they didn't have a figure until after this mission is complete. So it's no telling how long this is going to be ongoing. But as far as like the police officers, the federalization, there are almost 36 federal law enforcement agencies that do have some jurisdiction within the district. So really, that's nothing new. They can operate around their Secret Service Uniform Division, Capitol Police. They have some jurisdiction beyond just the Capitol, and beyond that, they can go around. So Park Police obviously is another one. Amtrak Police, Metro Police, Smithsonian has their own police. All those places, there's different jurisdictions around the district. So some of them, there's also Federal Protective Services and all these other U.S. Marshals and whatnot. So, I mean, they can already be there. They can be doing that stuff. So that issue's not with them. I think it's more the National Guard and how long they'll be there. But yeah, there's no timeline. And the White House has said, they've said however long this is going to take. So I don't know if they're thinking until they can get this new law, or until they're sort of seeing any sort of change, maybe winter. I don't know. Generally crime sometimes has a way of going down in winter times. So we'll just see from here. We'll see. But it's sort of an open-ended commitment at this time.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us today, Sarah. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.